We start today with a stunning reminder of the sorts of issues that are priorities for a Republican Party that is in shambles. Sex with your first cousin. This is not a joke, ladies and gentlemen. A Kentucky Republican has proposed a bill which would legalize sex with your first cousin with whom one shares 1/8 of their DNA. Newsweek reports a Kentucky Republican introduced legislation that would amend the state's law. We need to change the law so a person who had sex with their first cousin would no longer be criminally liable for incest before withdrawing it and claiming an error was made during the drafting process. This is House Bill 269, which State Representative Nick Wilson sponsored. According to the Kentucky General Assembly website, it would have struck, quote, first cousin from the list of familial relationships defined as unlawful incest in the state. In a statement sent to Newsweek, Wilson described it as a, quote, mistake. I don't know what that means. In a wider bill intended to extend legal protection against incest, which he withdrew and refiled, leaving the first cousin reference in place. This is all strange enough. Even stranger is that this guy, Nick Wilson, won the 37th season of the CBS reality show Survivor in 2018. Make of this what you will. He later ran unopposed for the 82nd district of the Kentucky House after Republican incumbent Regina Huff retired. Now, there are people who say you really shouldn't have laws against incest. In other words, we should explain to people why this is a bad idea. First cousins share 1/8 of their DNA. How could it be that this is something that needs to be legislated? There are those who take that sort of more libertarian view. The problem often becomes, well, if you don't put any restrictions, then all of a sudden it lends itself to predatory situations if you imagine relationships closer than first cousin. And then as soon as you say, well, okay, we need some restrictions, then it becomes a question of, well, where do we draw the line? Do we draw it at first cousin? Do we draw it at second cousin? What do we do? And in addition, there is the incredible contrast where you have those who believe that two men getting married or two women getting married is very, very bad, but then on the same at the same time seem to have no problem with first cousin marriage, as is the case in a number of different states. The takeaway for me, I mean, listen, I'd love to know how you make this mistake, right? Well, I filed a bill and I just mistakenly put in that first cousins should be able to have sex, but that was an error, and now I've corrected the error. That's all very, very strange. But bigger picture, we continue to see a world in which, completely absent any meaningful and substantive economic proposals, absent any meaningful improvements to our healthcare system, with nothing to say about foreign policy or local economic policy. This is a state rep after all. Absent anything substantive or meaningful or useful that's going to improve the lives of people, we have a Republican Party that at the federal, state, and municipal level has become obsessed with how many genders are there? Who gets to participate in which sports league? What about litter boxes in schools? Should you or should you not be able to legally have sex with your first cousin? Which list of books should be available in a library versus in a lesson plan for a 10 versus a 16-year-old? This is all that there is left. And remember, this is a movement that at one point described itself as conservative when that had some kind of meaning. Here's an economic worldview that we describe as conservative, and this is what they push for. Here is what it means when it comes to foreign policy to be conservative. No one is talking about that anymore. And you need only look at the recent Republican primary debates to see that. No substantive economic discussion. When it comes to foreign policy, it's posturing and just criticizing Joe Biden without, occasionally you would hear like Vivek Ramaswamy lay out at least a view, not necessarily one we agreed with, but at least it was a view informed in history and some knowledge of the way the last 100 years have worked, but essentially none of it. And instead, it's the contrived social issues and this sort of nonsense. So Nick Wilson chalking this up to a mistake. What that means, I really don't know, but it is emblematic of what this Republican Party has become.